Hi, everybody. This is our learning on economic concepts. We're going to be looking at our essential question, which is how do I decide what is good for me? And there's various vocabulary terms that we believe are important for you to use and understand to help you to really think about how do I decide what is good for me and really start thinking economically. So we will be looking at choice, value, scarcity, supply and demand, cost benefit, opportunity cost, competition, and the term market. So we'll start with thinking about the essential question. And what we're really talking about here is human behavior and the study of choice. So an example of this is the choice of whether or not I should watch this video. And because we have to factor in whether or not this video is something that is valuable to us or we're going to get something out of it, what are we willing to sacrifice in order to watch this video, namely your time? You may be thinking about other things that you want to do, and this video is not really one of those things you want to see to take up your time, but we're watching it now. So that's a choice that you made. You may say, well, I didn't really have a choice because Mrs. Sheila and Dr. Steppen are forcing me to watch this video. But is that really true? Do you have a choice in that matter? Could you just decide, well, I'm not going to watch it? Could you decide that you don't want to come to school today? We don't recommend that, but that is your choice ultimately. So we do actually make lots and lots of choices, and there are a lot of things that factor into why we make the choices we do. The bottom line is we have wants and we have needs. And there's also a limited amount of those things, which we're going to talk about next. So let's think about how we make choices. Scarcity is the idea that there's just not enough of a resource that we really want or need. And so that's going to factor into how we make choices. So, for example, thinking about something that's very scarce, like caviar, is an example. Caviar is fish eggs, essentially. So it's not readily available and it's not all around us. It's not limitless. There's only a certain amount that you can get. You have to dive into the sea and be able to extract it because essentially it's fish eggs. So if you really want it, there's not a lot of it and not everyone can have it. So if you decide that you would like to have caviar for dinner tonight, not everybody in the world is going to be able to make that same decision. So everyone's going to have to make a choice. How much are you willing to let go of to get that caviar? Because not everybody's going to be able to have that. Another example to talk about scarcity would be air. Everybody needs it, and it is actually something that's limitless. So it's not considered scarce, at least not in our open environment. So if you are breathing in air, you're not necessarily taking air away from someone else. So everyone can have it, unless you're in an airtight space. So if you're trapped in a freezer, or a space station where air is a commodity and it's not readily available for everyone, the air that you're breathing means that you're taking away air that could be available to someone else. So that's kind of how we think about scarcity. Either something is in limited amounts or it's limitless. Value is a term that means what is important to us and is it worth, how much worth does it have? So when we think about what we need and what we want, we have to sometimes make choices based on what's most valuable to us. The examples that we have on this page are sushi, which I personally find very valuable. And so I'm generally willing to choose sushi if I'm looking at choices for what to eat for dinner. Medical care is also something that you might consider to be a value. If you value life and you need health, or you become sick, then getting medical care as a service is something that you might find value to. Various housing choices, you might find value in different characteristics or amenities in a home that you choose. Most people need to live with a roof over their head. And there are limited amounts of housing available to all people. If you take up space in the world, someone else is not getting that space. So thinking about what is valuable to you in that regard. Something else that you can be thinking about when you think about value is the word labor, which represents the idea of workers who actually provide a service or make something. How valuable is the product that you're able to make? Or how valuable is the service that you're able to provide? So that's something to be thinking about too when you think about the word value. A cost benefit analysis is really a way of making choices. And there are many people who believe that when we decide what we're going to do, we consider how much benefit we're going to get out of it. And then we think about what we're going to have to give up or the costs. And then we almost do like a mathematical equation in our head without even thinking about it. If the benefits outweigh the costs, then we're more likely to make that specific choice. So, in thinking of going to college, what would be the benefits of choosing a specific school to go to? And then weighing out or subtracting how much it's going to cost. And cost doesn't necessarily mean how much tuition you're going to pay. It could also mean how far away is it? So is a cost going to be that I won't get to see my family or that I won't be able to go home on weekends as much if it's far away? So that could be a cost as well. Another cost could be time. Am I willing to spend 4 years at a school to get a degree? What would be the benefit of graduating from college with a degree? And what would be the cost? Maybe I'm thinking I could be making money doing a job or developing my actual career in another way without having to go to college. Opportunity cost is really just what we're willing to give up. So when we say, what's the opportunity cost? What is it that we are willing to give up in order to get what is valuable to us? So an example I like to use is in the 1980s, there was a specific type of jeans that was very popular, which is the image on the top. And they were called Guess jeans. But they were very expensive. They were more valuable because of the brand name. Whereas there was a fake version of Guess jeans that was a lot less expensive. So when I choose to buy the Palmetto's jeans, which are less expensive, the opportunity cost is what I'm willing to give up, which is decided not to choose the Guess jeans. So that was my opportunity cost. I weighed it out and I decided to go with the Palmetto's. I'm willing to give up having the really nice brand that everybody knows is really cool because I just don't want to have to pay that extra money. Here's another example of opportunity cost. I mentioned that I really like sushi, and Walk and Fire has very delicious sushi. But I know that I have lots of food in my refrigerator. So I'm going to make the choice to eat at home and cook some pancakes for dinner because I already have paid for that and it's less expensive. The opportunity cost is my willingness to give up the dinner out at Walk and Fire because I want to use up the groceries and make sure they don't go bad and kind of have a more affordable experience. Utility, getting back to the jeans analysis or the jeans example, is the idea of how much satisfaction are we going to get out of a choice that makes it worth the opportunity cost. In other words, not every decision we make is based on cost benefit analysis. Sometimes we just really think that something is worth it, and we're willing to go for the more expensive one that doesn't even really have more benefits, just because we really get satisfaction out of the product itself. So my feeling of being able to wear the Guess jeans, which are kind of a nicer brand and more well known, and I just really want that pair, it makes me happy, outweighs this idea that I'll be saving money if I get the cheaper version and walk around with a triangle that says Palmettos. Here's another example of utility. So I could do a cost benefit analysis when I decide what to do for dinner tonight. And it's definitely cheaper to eat the food that I already have in my refrigerator. Plus, there's more food. So it really is a better deal to just eat the food that I already have at home. But Walk and Fire would be delicious. And it makes me really happy. And it brings me more utility. I just feel like it's more utility in that regard. So I'd rather do that route. Another way of thinking about our choices is supply and demand. And this is the idea that when a resource is really scarce and a lot of people want it or need it, then it becomes more valuable and possibly more expensive, meaning you're going to want to spend more money on it, but it does become more valuable. The opposite of that is also true, that when there is a lot of a resource, it's really available and not that many people want it or need it, then its value decreases. So the Hydro Flask Limited Edition, the people who created that did a great job of thinking about, let's just put something out that's in limited supply. There's not a lot of it. People are going to find a lot of utility in it because they're going to be able to carry around fresh, cold water. Plus, it's got a fancy design that's going to make them feel special because not that many people have it. We can hike up the price on that. It's going to be a lot more valuable. Whereas there are plenty of other water bottles on the market that are cheaper because they're not in as much demand. And so the price of those will be less. People will not be willing to pay high cost for something that's in great supply and they don't really need it or want it. So another thing to think about is competition, and we're going to use the water bottle example again. This is what happens when there are numerous choices available of a single resource. So there are lots of companies that make water bottles. So really, in essence, they are in competition to get you to choose their product. So the Hydro Flask company is going to make all kinds of different limited editions. They're going to advertise. They're going to make them really fancy. There are a couple different things that they can do. They can adjust the cost if they want you to buy their product. So the cheaper bottles that you see, they bring the cost down to try to get you to buy their water bottle instead of the Hydro Flask. Or maybe they're going to put funny little sayings on the bottles because that might provide you some utility to think, I'm going to be walking around school with a water bottle that says "Hustle Hard, Girl," instead of just a plain old white bottle. So each of the bottle companies are in competition to get you to choose their product, and they'll put pressure on you in different ways. Another way of thinking about competition is labor, because labor can be a form of competition too. With limited jobs available and a lot of people who need to work, think about how do you make yourself appear better than the other person to get that limited job or that one job that everybody wants. So I'm giving you the example of the US News and World Report analysis of the 100 best jobs available. And software developer was the job that everybody seems to want because it's the best job that you can have. There are a limited amount of them available. So there's 255,400 jobs available, very, very high salary. The cost benefit you would have to think about what you're willing to give up in order to be that, which means you'd have to spend 4 years in college to be available to be a software developer. So, how do you set yourself apart from all of the other people who want to fill that 255,400 slot, who want to take one of those jobs and get that median salary of $101,790, who also have bachelor's degrees? So, you would be in competition against everybody else who has that bachelor's degree and wants that job. So, what would be some ways that you could set yourself apart to get that specific slot that's in scarcity? Market is a term that can refer to a lot of different things. You can think about it as the way that things are bought and sold, or you can use it to refer to the general place where things are bought and sold. If you Google the word market, or at least if I Google the word market, the first thing that comes up is Blue Goose. So there's a lot of different ways you can think about the word market. Blue Goose is a place where things are bought and sold. But you can also go even more big picture by thinking of it as a world of choices and all of the individuals who are doing that choosing. So that's also a way of using the word market. And we often refer to the individuals who are doing the choosing as the consumers because they're the ones that are going to be consuming the service or consuming the product. So, an example to help you think about the word market is thinking about the college market. So, what colleges are available for choosing? That's a question you would ask. So, what colleges are out there in the marketplace that you, as the consumer, could choose? Who are the people who are interested in choosing college? So, in other words, what does the marketplace look like in terms of the consumer? How much are people willing to pay to give up, in other words, that whole opportunity cost? What are you willing to give up in order to choose that school? Are you willing to go to ECC and give up going to University of Illinois Chicago? Is it worth it to you in terms of the value and in terms of cost benefit analysis? Are you going to get more education for the money? How much utility will you get in going to ECC versus going to University of Illinois Chicago? You may want to go to a school that's away from us, that's further away, kind of live on your own and have that name of University of Illinois Chicago, which is a very highly ranked school. So that might provide you with a lot of utility, like going to lots of football games, making friends with people who don't live in this general area. So those would be other reasons why utility would factor into your decision. What are some of the specific features that different colleges offer? That's thinking about the market of colleges. What programs are available at ECC that may not be available at University of Illinois, or vice versa? What programs are available and what features do they have? Is there a football team? Is that important to you? Does that have value? Do they have a business program that you want to go into or an art program? And then finally, thinking about comparing colleges in the Illinois market and the out of state market. So that would be something that you might do if you're thinking about the college market. So hopefully, you've been able to get a little bit more of a sense of how we talk about economics and how we think about choice. And hopefully, these terms that you're learning about, you'll be able to start using a lot more meaningfully when you think about how we make choices and decide what's good for us.